Today on In the House, I have a really fun chat with Matt Brading of Texas Edge Home Inspections out of Houston, Texas, about some of the many horrifying things that he encounters as a home inspector. Matt tells me how he found himself in the home inspection business and the most common issues he finds with older homes, and believe it or not, in new construction. I get to know Matt as we talk about bourbon and his rise in popularity on YouTube and social media and some other cool stories. I hope you like this episode. Thanks for listening. Elevate your construction projects with Trademarks. Durable, waterproof vinyl markers that stand up to the toughest conditions. Perfect for accurately marking locations for electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and other essential elements. These heavy-duty markers won't wear off or move even under heavy traffic. Available in various shapes and colors, they ensure clear, professional communication on the job site. Streamline your layout process and maintain accountability to architectural plans with Trademarks. New customers enjoy 15% off at checkout. Visit trademarklayout.com to get yours today. Thanks for coming on, though. Oh, let's pour this up, man. Shoot.
All right.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
I'm into it.
Okay. Henry McKenna. This was a gift to me by U.S. Lumber Brokers. Shout out to them.
I am not familiar with this bottle, but this is this looks like a good one.
Dude, it's
bottled in bond.
Are you a bourbon snob? Are you a connoisseur?
I would not call myself a snob or connoisseur.
Okay.
I will say that I have developed a taste for good bourbon.
Yeah.
And I definitely, know the difference. But I mean, I am kind of all over the spectrum too. I mean, I'm not drinking Evan Williams, but I mean, one of my favorites all time is Wild Turkey 101, which is just a solid but cheap bourbon, right?
Yeah.
I do not have a whiskey room or I do have a bit of a collection, but it is a very small collection.
Me too.
And very minimal in comparison to anybody who would call themselves a bourbon snob or bourbon connoisseur.
For sure. I'm right there.
I got a couple premium bottles. I got a couple of really nice ones. I got a few Eagle Rares. I got a couple of Blantons.
Oh, dude, I got to get my hands on an Eagle Rare.
I mean those. So Old Kentucky Owl. I got. What are some of the other premium bottles I have?
I'm thinking of some scotches. I think. What is it, like the Macallan? Mm-hmm. Macallan's a scotch. Mm-hmm. I like scotch. I think
I like scotch. I actually got into scotch before I was into bourbon.
I think so too.
Which is weird. It's kind of backwards. Most people,
do the bourbon
the other way.
Interesting.
The only reason why that happened is because I was in a blues band and we were just trying to drink scotch because we thought it was cool.
It is pretty cool.
And so we were just trying to be cool, and we thought we'd just drink scotch, and turned us into scotch drinkers. And then one day I was like, well, what's this bourbon about? Yeah. And then I just went that direction.
That's so funny because that's kind of the same way I got into it. I was like, man, I've always wanted to be one of those guys who just enjoys a nice scotch, no ice, just straight. Yeah. And it's definitely an acquired taste. The first couple times you gotta wonder, who was the first person to really create this? And they took a sip of it and they're like, oh, wow, that's great. I want to keep that.
How did that happen? Yeah. I think it had to have been out of desperation and thirst. So. And then it's they drink it and then it's okay, no, this was terrible. But I really like what it made me feel like.
Yeah. But how did they drink enough of it to get tequila? Who was the first person to taste that and be like, oh, that's some good stuff there?
I don't know, man.
But it's an acquired taste. I can do some tequila now. That's one of my favorites.
But I mean, you got to think a lot of stuff is really weird like that. Who decided to milk a cow?
I don't know.
Who decided this should be good stuff to drink? Who?
You might be right. It might just be out of desperation, and somebody's like, "Hey, there's some good stuff in there. I see the calves going after it." So
I don't know. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that I can't think of them right now, but I've had conversations like this before. It's who thought of doing this, and then now we know and love it. There's a whole lot of things. We could go on a whole tangent on that.
Oh well, let's do it. Drink. Cheers, by the way. Absolutely. So you just came from the first ever Build Show Live. How was that?
So, it was great. I was talking to somebody about this earlier. There was somebody that's doing some filming for the production of it. It's quite a production. I mean,
Oh, sure.
like, if you've ever been to a construction or builders conference, sure, there's a couple of like talks. There might be some people filming some stuff, but this is a production.
Really?
I mean, there are straight up like video production cameras, microphones, and everything. And there's 3 stages in which these things are going on. And there's people just running through with cameras throughout the whole event, right?
That's crazy.
And so this morning, one of the guys with the production team reached out to me on Instagram and was like, hey, we'd like to chat with you for a minute, see what you think about the show, ask you some things. He was a follower of mine. I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. And so, he was asking me, like, hey, what do you think about the event? I mean, like, I guess his question was more like, as opposed to like watching the build show on your computer, like, what do you think of the event? It's like, my answer to him was, it very much feels like we are doing the build show live. Yeah. I know, like, we've got other conferences like JLC Live. They call that right, because, but this literally feels like you are in a live production of the build show. All of the same people that you're used to seeing. It's really cool to see them all in one room. And they are doing demonstrations. They are having talks. And you just kind of get to mingle and chat with these people. And it's just, the difference between watching something on TV and like actually having something very tangible and very, real right in front of you.
That is cool.
3-dimensional.
It's cool. Like, it's definitely like the networking part of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, you're used to seeing these, if you're a fan of the build show and the build network, I guess. I mean, it's all over the U.S., but if you do watch that, then you're used to seeing these faces all the time. So I'm sure it's cool to be able to meet them in person.
Yeah, it's cool, and I most of them, not all of them, but most of the people involved with the show, I have met at other conferences or building science things and stuff like that. But we don't get together very often, And then there's like all these people that come down from like Canada and stuff, and it's funny because I've met these people, we've hung out, but they still like we're so disconnected and we see each other so infrequently that they just seem like these larger than life figures. And then you get in front of them and you're having a good time. You realize, oh no, we actually are friends. Right. This is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's wild. I became a home inspector back in 2017.
Yeah.
I didn't have any thoughts of being immersed in this type of environment. And it all happened because of it started because of SASHCO. Well, it started because of the videos, right?
Yeah. Well,
because of social media.
What did you do before? Like, how did you get Texas Edge Home Inspections is your business, and you do home inspections out of the Houston area and the surrounding area, but like, what led into that? How did you get into home inspections?
Well, I've kind of always had that kind of frame of mind of like, I would fix things. People would come to me if something was broken. I like to tell people, like, I wasn't in construction before I did this. I was actually in a completely unrelated field. I worked for a van and truck rental company for like 25 years.
Really?
I started when I was a kid, and I worked all the way to as high as I could possibly be with that company. Most of my job in management, especially, and before that, was in customer service, right?
Okay.
And so that's one leg up I had than a lot of other people in the inspection industry, because there's an awful lot of people in the construction industry and inspection industry that are not customer oriented. They're not customer service oriented.
Sure.
And I already kind of had that down. I knew how to make people happy. But this was never a thought in my mind. But I did get to a point with the other job where it was just a complete dead end. There was nowhere to go. There was no way I was going. I mean, there might be like a periodic raise in a couple of years. I might make a little bit more money. But back when the economy crashed in 2008, they took away any opportunity for me to make commission as a manager. And it took away any drive I had to try to do anything or be anything any better. And I tried to kind of tell them, hey, I need something here. And they were like, no, we're happy where you're at. They were perfectly happy where I was at. They liked what I was doing. Of course they were. And they paid me pretty well. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't.
Sure.
But I wasn't happy. right?
Yeah.
And I like to tell people that even though I wasn't in construction, I did go through a stretch with that company where they were remodeling and opening up new offices, and I was somewhat in charge of a lot of that. I got at least semi in charge of some of this remodel and hiring contractors and making these offices to what they wanted them to be. Anyway, I got a lot of experience with that, but I wouldn't say, even though I went into inspection without any construction, like on paper construction experience, I wouldn't say I was green. It's weird because I don't know how to explain it when people ask, except for the fact that like I did have a lot of life experience. Is what I like to say that lended itself to me being wired or geared to do this line of work. I have had an opportunity to be in front of tradespeople as they were working, or that I just knew some people. In that company that I worked for, one of the guys had a really good friend that did HVAC. He also was like an engineer of sorts, and he would come. He liked me for whatever reason, so he would come and he would teach me and show me things and tell me what was going on. I learned a ton of stuff from that guy, and those type of experiences, I've just found myself in those experiences, and I've just absorbed this knowledge from all of these people in all of their trades for years. I didn't know it was happening; it just was happening, and so it actually a relative that was a realtor. Knew that I had kind of hit a crossroads with my job, and I needed a new line of work. And she said, "Well, have you ever thought about being a home inspector?" I said, "No," and I didn't even know what it was. And so she said, "Well, I think you'd be good at it." She knew my skill set, and she thought I'd be good at it. And as a realtor, I mean, she must know what she's talking about if she's saying, "Hey, I think you'd be good at doing real estate inspections." Yeah. And so I immediately just said, well, knowing that I wanted to do something, I looked it up, Googled it, how to become a home inspector in Texas, kind of started learning what it was about a little bit. And I mean, within 7 days of her saying this, I drove to Champion School of Real Estate, which was like 10 minutes from where my job was at the time, in the middle of the day, and put down half down payment on getting started on classes. And they gave me my books, and I went home and I got started.
So she just lit that fire.
She did. Yeah. She just kind of, she is the one that kind of told me about it. At first I thought it was going to be like a part-time thing. Something just to make me happy.
Yeah. On the side. Yeah.
To find a way to make a little bit of extra money and like, just do something on the side to make myself feel productive. Cause I mean, man, I had a family. And so leaving this job that pays me well is, that I was going to have to leave that for something that was going to pay me well. And so I never really thought that I would be able to do that with home inspection. It just didn't really occur to me that I would be able to. Yeah. So I thought I'd just do it in my spare time. And then I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to be able to do this in my spare time and make any money. Yeah. Like, it costs a lot. It costs a lot for me to get the training. It costs a lot for me to get the tools. I have to carry insurance. Yeah. And then if you want anybody to call you, I mean, yes, I had a relative that was a realtor, but I mean, how many jobs are they going to be able to give me?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to branch out.
Not many. Yeah. So you have to go market yourself to be able to get people to call you. Yeah. Well, if you're doing it in your spare time and on the weekends and stuff, and somebody calls you, man, this business, they need that stuff done yesterday. Yeah. So if they call you and they're like, well, I got another job, so I can do it on Saturday and it's Monday. Like, you're going to lose that job and they're not going to call you again. Yeah. Yeah. Because they're going to get somebody else to do it and then they're going to call that person. And so I was like, okay, I got to start like marketing the hell out of my business. And then I need to make myself available. I had a lot of flexibility. So one thing with that job that they were offering me, and they knew it. They didn't know I was building another company. Honestly, I didn't either at the time. Sure. But I did have a lot of flexibility with them. That's good. So they let me just kind of do whatever I wanted. It's kind of come and go as a please, almost a little bit, within reason. Yeah, yeah. And so, man, I just started making it to inspections.
That's good.
And I started building it that way, marketing it. And then a couple years in, it was like, all right, like I got full on business. I need to make a choice. Yeah. I can't do 2 full-time jobs. So I need to stop doing one. And
make that leap.
I wasn't going to, the idea when I first got into it, it was actually completely risky to just open up my own business. never having done home inspections or worked with anybody doing home inspections. And people ask me all the time, people want to do it. It's enticing to people to think, I can start my own business. Yeah, you can, but there's an awful lot of liability in it.
Of course.
And you can't just, I didn't work in construction on paper, but like you can't just not know anything. Like you can't not know anything about construction and do this job. And I don't think the training that we receive, that we pay for from the state, is enough.
So that was actually, I was not expecting that, honestly. I was expecting some kind of construction background. Are most inspectors, would you say, do they have a construction background, or are they kind of the similar story to you? At least ones that you've spoken to.
Well, let's just minimize it down to Texas.
Okay.
I've learned that when I have these discussions, oftentimes I'm speaking to people globally because of my reach on social media.
Yeah.
So oftentimes people ask me, how do I become an inspector? And I start telling them how. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, where are you?
Yeah.
In Texas, they require you to be licensed.
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to get licensed, you have to have all this like 200 plus hours of state approved training, depending on what level of license you want.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to pass the national and state home inspector exam. The national has like a 55% failure rate. It's really hard.
Right.
Code laden, 200 questions. And then you have to get insurance, and you have to get a background check, and you have to apply to the state for a license. And if they accept you, you get a license, right? Do most of the people in my class probably didn't even make it that far. I would say about half of them probably had a construction background. Half of that other half came from oil and gas.
Really?
Yeah. And then there was randos like me. I think if you don't have much of a construction background, you're opening yourself up for some liability that maybe would be unnecessary.
Okay.
You probably should think about working for somebody that can show you how to do the job better.
Do you wish you had that experience before going into it, or?
So no, I don't have any regrets. I don't. Okay, let me back it up a minute. Let's rephrase. Let's think about this question for a second. Do I wish I had construction experience? I sometimes think that were you in the military?
So I never commissioned. I went into the Air Force Academy, and I was there for a few years, but never commissioned or anything. But so I don't technically say I was in the military, but I did. I was in it, steeped in it, and my father and grandfather were in the military.
I wasn't.
Sure.
But people ask me all the time if I am. They assume that I am, which I take as a very strong compliment. Okay, I'm like, thank you, but no, I was not. But I sometimes feel like I may have missed my calling a little bit, or a calling, by not doing that, because I feel like there's a reason why people are asking that about me. It's the way I hold myself. Mm-hmm. And there's also like the camaraderie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Of like relying on your brethren, your battalion, whatever it is that you are doing, whether you're in the battlefield or you're just, just in the military. But just that connection that you get with these people that I think I kind of never really got. I think that very much the construction industry can be a lot of the same. Obviously not the military, but the camaraderie about it.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it probably has some of that. So
it's not an easy industry. And so you're right. You do kind of get that camaraderie. Like you have this connection with somebody who's in the industry, because they understand the struggles and how stressful and difficult it can be.
I don't know that being in the industry would have made me any better at my job, but I do wish that I had done it for those reasons, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure that's how you meant the question, but that's what I enjoy the environment. Yeah. Of Build Live today when I was there, and the people that I'm surrounded by, I enjoy that environment. Mm-hmm. I connect with those people. And so it's nice to be able to do it now, because I did miss out on that, being in construction.
Sure.
I don't have any regrets professionally though, because I had enough knowledge, enough passing knowledge and systems about all systems of a home. And then what I didn't know, I learned enough in training which wasn't much, but I did.
Yeah.
And then past that, like experience. And I have enough knowledge to know when to question, when to ask,
Yeah,
when
that's important.
to look something up and learn. I know enough to know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that is what has made me successful,
Absolutely.
not having construction experience,
Yeah.
having that. And so, I don't think I miss it, but I will say though that, if you don't, if it's something that somebody wanted to consider, if you don't have construction experience, like you can go work for a company like myself or definitely a lot of outfits out there that can give you because you don't have to know construction to know inspection. And that's kind of what irritates construction workers about inspectors.
Really?
And I get it.
Do you get people who gripe at you a lot or who?
Not really.
Yeah. No.
This is funny.
Sorry. So go
no,
ahead.
you're good. You're good. Go ahead. I'm going to look something up.
So you do inspections for both like homeowners and builders, right?
No, I work primarily for buyers.
Okay. Gotcha.
And homeowners.
Okay.
Eric Ani from Mechanical Hub.
Yeah, I follow him. Yeah.
He asked just 10 minutes before I came here. I was having a talk with him, and he asked me that question. If I get like pushback from builders and stuff, and I was like, no, not really. And it's just funny that he did because I had this person. I'm just going to read this. This is a text I got yesterday.
Okay.
From someone I did an inspection for, a pre-drywall inspection. So this is an inspection that takes place just before drywall and insulation is put in.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the framing. I'm looking at rough plumbing, electrical, HVAC. I'm looking at the roof. I'm looking at the whatever visible parts of the slab, the weather barrier, all that stuff. I was a little bit irritated because as I'm wrapping up the inspection to leave, a box truck pulls up with guys with a box truck full of insulation. They're insulating before I've even left.
Yikes.
And there's things in the report that are going to be covered with insulation. Mm-hmm. And so I was a little bit irritated. And so I sent the buyer a text and I was like, so this happened. And she was like, yeah. And she was kind of frustrated with him already. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe they're going to take my report very seriously if they're already throwing up insulation before I'm there. Yeah. And so anyway, she was a little bit disappointed, but she goes, well, I've got, a walkthrough with them tomorrow afternoon. I'll talk to them about it then. And so then she reaches out to me. I'm trying to find it. She says, so yesterday she reached out to me. She says, they're holding off on putting up drywall until they correct all the issues in your report. And she says, they got done with the walkthrough, and she just wanted to let me know they're fixing everything that was in the report. The builder said that I caught stuff that he didn't catch. Said he's a follower of mine and that I'm a good inspector. Also said that now that he knows that she's using me, he's going to mind his P's and Q's. Oh, man. And then and says he doesn't want to end up on my Instagram page.
On his shit list.
Yeah, so I'm laughing at that, right? And they printed out my report, went over it, each piece. She told me his name. I asked who he was because these people that have respect, like I want to know them, Yeah. And he said that he wasn't offended at all by anything I put in the report or that I was there. He was glad that she had hired me and recommended that I come for the final inspection. That's just one experience. They're not all like that.
Sure,
okay?
Yeah.
And I'm certain that there's a good cross section of builders that are just like, damn it, inspectors. You know what I mean? After my report. But I really don't get those people that are angry that I'm there or anything. If somebody wants to do a good job and is not trying to cover something up, they generally don't mind when somebody comes through. Now, if you're writing up a bunch of piddly stuff that doesn't matter because you're just trying to find something because you actually don't know what you're doing,
sure.
They can get frustrated. And I'm telling you, I think it's merited. I think that there are enough inspectors out there that don't know what they're doing, and I can understand why builders would get upset by them. Plus, there's a whole nother world of inspection that is not what I do, which is like city and county inspections or whatever that actually have the ability to fail and stop you.
Yeah.
Like I don't have that.
Sure.
And I think that's where some of the disconnect comes, or some of the haters and trolls on social media they'll say anything they want, right? And they're mad at inspectors because that's happened to them. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not what I do.
Because you're a third party.
I'm a third party guy. I have actually no authority over them. All I do is present them with a inspection report, and with the buyer with an inspection report they have, and they can discuss the next moves with the builder, and it's really up to them to decide what they want to do.
Is that frustrating to you though? Sometimes going into these projects and you're like, I wish I could push pause on this.
There have been times.
Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff, man. It is absolutely mind blowing. Some of the videos that you make, and you're like, it's unspeakable. I mean, it's like this horrible atrocity has occurred. And I mean, you're talking about, a house is insulated and sheetrocked and there's still gaping holes on the roof.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. It's funny that you bring that up because this ties right back into Eric Ani again.
Yeah.
He's going to keep coming up. He actually told me that one of my videos is going to be in his presentation tomorrow.
Oh, good.
I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure. But so it's funny. He's putting me in mind. I'm putting him in this podcast.
Good,
okay, Eric,
good.
You're back in. You probably are talking about this, a recent video I put out, probably within a month.
It was, about a month. Yeah.
A plumbing vent
yes.
going right through a valley. Uh-huh. And it's funny because I used this is a pre-drywall inspection. I use a drone to look at the roof on the pre-drywall inspections because there's hardly any place to get a footing on a ladder. I mean, the other day I was doing one. It was so wet and muddy around there. The ladder would have just sank. My feet were sinking. I was like literally ankle deep in mud walking around this place. So I'm not putting a ladder down in that.
Sure.
And so I get my drone out and look at it, right? Mm-hmm. So I had already seen that vent in the valley, and I took a picture of it, but I didn't take a video of it or anything. And then when I got into the house, I realized, this would actually make a pretty good video. So I made it. And I tried to show what was going on. Well, I had one guy challenge me, and he was like, "Yeah, show the other side of it." Like he couldn't see. Anybody who knew anything about construction would be able to see that it was in the valley. It was in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And this guy challenged me on it, and so I was like, okay. And so I went to get the report, took a picture of it from my report on my computer, and then replied to him. I was like, "Is this good enough?" So anyway, that's actually I digress. I sent that. I think I tagged Eric in that. And Eric he doesn't seem like he'd be this way, but he's the most forgiving dude.
Really?
Like he's like, that happens a lot actually. People make mistakes, I'm sure it wasn't on purpose.
Sure.
He's like, it's like, yeah, totally. Right. But you should also fix it before the inspector gets there. Right. Yeah. But, and so we kind of had a laugh about that. And so then I go back a few weeks later. Because I made the video, posted it a few weeks later, and a few weeks after that, I go back for the final inspection. Days before they're going to move in, okay? Days before.
Yeah.
They've relocated the vent. Now there's a 90-degree turn in it, and it's going about 6 feet into another area of the field shingles, which is fine. They installed a plumbing boot or a vent boot around it at roof level. They did that wrong, but they did move the vent.
Yeah.
But they left the old jack. So the jack is still there. It's a lead jack. And it's just a 2-inch hole in the roof.
Straight through the roof.
You just see daylight through there. And it's like, that's how you fixed it? And so I sent that to Eric, and he was just like, oh, my God. Like, how you can't defend it anymore.
Yeah, like, exactly. Now it's it's not a mistake. Now it's just like they're doing this on purpose.
And I don't know, at what point were they planning to fix it? I don't think they were planning to fix this. So, again, another guy challenges me on this. This is constant, okay?
Really?
But another guy challenges me on that, and he was saying they knew about that. They were going to fix that, and the plumber wouldn't be the one to fix that, yada, yada, yada. He was just really finding anything he could, poke at me. And I go, well, okay. Yeah, maybe they were going to fix it. But number one, they probably should have done that before I came.
Right. It's a
number
final
two,
inspection.
It's a gaping hole in the roof. It's not like it's not a priority. It needs to be put priority.
Yeah.
And also, I know the plumber's not going to fix that portion of it. But you know who is? The roofer. And you know who installed the other roof jack? The roofer. They had already been there.
Yeah.
So they went up there. And it's really, I can't even blame the roofer. First of all, I don't know who sent this up in this area. They did. They probably, like Eric said, they probably just made a mistake.
Yeah.
But let's correct it. Let's correct it really before we put a hole in the roof. But okay. Yeah. You put a hole in the roof. We already did it. But it's just like the problem is nobody cares what anybody else is doing, and no one's getting the full instruction of how to repair.
Well, these are all production builders, I assume.
Yes. This one is. Yeah.
There's no on-site. There's no on-site inspections. You know, they're not there. They're just driving the neighborhood. I did an internship for a little while with a production builder. Definitely not my calling. I mean, my experience mainly has been in the high-end, residential side of things. And the very first inspection I did, I was straight out of college, and I had no idea what I was doing. And it was, this is city of Austin, and it was so for people who don't know, the biggest inspection is the pre-drywall. That's like one of the big ones, because you're looking at so much. You're looking at the frame, you're looking at electrical, plumbing, you're looking at HVAC. There's a lot, like it's one big inspection that covers a whole lot of trades. And so that was the first inspection I was tasked with, and the senior guy in charge wasn't there that day, and he said, "Don't let them fail you." And I was like, "Sure," like whatever the heck that means. But I was basically taught, like, anytime there's an inspection, you're there. You are not to let the inspector walk the house alone, because he will just find any random piddly thing and put it on the report.
That would piss me off so bad. I would 100% find every piddly thing I could if somebody was walking with me.
I know, but that's what that's funny.
It's going to be jacked. That report is what
I was taught, was like, you
87 pages long.
And you everything that he writes up, you're like, well, let's look at this. Let's figure something out. And he's like, don't let him fail you. And so that was my first introduction into home inspections, was that big one. And yeah, I never forgot that. That was funny. But, that's the problem. Going back to your scenario, there's no on-site supervision.
Right.
There's nobody verifying that, hey, the repair was made and it's correct, and now we can call the inspection in.
Well, so, they send a plumber out there. He redirects the pipe. He cuts another hole in the roof, and he sends the pipe through the roof, right? Then the roofer comes out, and the roofer puts a jack on. And he didn't do a good job of that, but he went up there and he put a jack on. But no one told him to take the other one off.
Yeah.
The message got put like, hey, we had to move this vent. I need you to go put a boot around this vent.
Sure.
So he goes up there, he puts a boot around the vent, and then he leaves. That lead jack looks like a plumbing vent from roof level.
Right.
So you can't even hardly blame the roofer unless he was given the instruction.
Yeah.
And I doubt he was. And that's just where the disconnect is happening, right?
Sure.
You've got a project manager that isn't really paying attention to what's going on. Or honestly, they don't know. They may not know.
It's probably, one of the other.
If they did know, you could see this from ground level.
Mm-hmm.
They would have fixed this a long time ago.
Yeah.
If you just walk around the house, you can see that the vent is in. You didn't have to be on the roof.
Yeah.
You didn't have to have a drone, and you didn't have to look at it from the attic. You could see it from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not looking, or they don't know. They don't know to look.
Yeah.
And it's no knock on them. I just don't think there's enough training out there. Look, I 100%, whenever I started doing home inspections, I could have missed that.
Sure.
I might have missed that.
Yeah.
It's logic, okay? You don't put a hole in the roof where there's a high water traffic area.
Yeah.
It's logic.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I was talking to... Man, I had the coolest experience at lunch today.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it in a minute. But Joe Steebrick, you know who that is?
Yes, I know Joe Steebrick.
So I ended up at lunch with him. But, just keep water out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much that simple.
Yeah.
Just don't let water collect or, direct water away. That's it.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. That's building science.
That's
okay?
101.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're going to know anything, just keep water out of the house.
Yes.
Water destroys houses. Keep it out. Don't put holes in the roof at all if you can, and especially not in a high traffic area for water. Direct water away, not into the house. And they directed water into the house.
Yeah.
Totally off topic, but I was walking around the show today, and a guy, his name's Evan. He's a mold inspector, or actually a remediator, I think.
Okay.
I don't know him very well, but he's from Dallas, and he's a part of the BS and Beer I think he's actually the guy that put it together in the Dallas chapter. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've met him a few times. He's a good dude. And I was walking around the show, and he goes, "Hey man, it's lunchtime. I'm thinking about going to this barbecue joint." He's got like a barbecue joint map. He's trying to check off like cities and places that he goes to barbecue. Thinking about hitting up this place about a mile away. Actually, I don't even think it's that far. And I was like, yeah, I'll go with you. And we hoofed it over there. And so we're standing in line, and Joe Stiebrick walks in by himself, and he gets in line with us. And it's like, well, hey, how are you doing, Joe? Like, I've never gotten to meet him. Like, and he's like a building science god. Like, this guy's like, that's the end of the road. Like, as a matter of fact, I was at Matt Reisinger's keynote speech this morning. And him and all of the Build Show crew presented Joe Stiebrick with a Lifetime Achievement Award. I mean, this is the guy they all look up to.
Yeah,
he's written countless articles that about countless, which did not stories, but like blogs, studies. Yes, countless, and they all look at this guy for guidance.
That's true.
And I'm sitting here at a barbecue joint eating lunch with this dude. Like,
that's really cool.
Yeah, we were going through the line. I get to that. He walked in, and of course, like, he orders food or whatever, and he went over there to pay. And I was like, I mean, how often do you get a chance to buy Joe Stiebrick's lunch? Like, I don't get that chance very often, right? At all. And so I go, hey, he's on me. And he's like, what? And I was like, dude, you're on me. And so then he's like, well, I'm not hanging with anybody. Mind if I sit with you guys? It's like, no, I do not mind if you sit here. And so me and him and Evan sat there for about an hour and a half. And Joe just started going on, telling us all these great stories and everything. This is just a wild experience I didn't expect to have today.
That's cool.
And so, yeah, real cool, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're right. I don't think there's a builder out there, especially in like the high end realm, who has not heard of that name, Joe Stiebrick. Yeah,
I know.
You're right. He's a great resource. He's done a lot of really good studies. Building science related. That if you have a question or if you got a tricky detail or a situation, man, just you can get on what is it, Green Building Advisor or JLC, I think. Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of really good articles. But what's the most common inspection that you do? Is it a final?
The final inspection, or on a finished home, I should say, because when I say final, that usually refers to a new construction home, but I also do existing homes.
Right.
I do existing home inspections, usually for people that are buying a house and know nothing about it. Mm-hmm. And then I do new construction homes as just when they're finished. That would be the final inspection. I do the phase construction. I do pre-pour and pre-drywall. But then I also do 11-month warranty inspections. So most builders have a 1-year warranty. And buyers will have me come back sometimes at the 11-month mark to just do another full inspection and just before their warranty expires to see if there's anything the builder needs to do before they don't have any warranty anymore.
For sure.
But when I say final inspections, I would have to really more classify it as just completed homes, because yes, I do new, but I do a ton of those existing homes too, and so completed homes. Probably.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
What's the what would you say is the most common problem that you find?
Oh man.
It's probably hard.
It is. And I think I kind of break it apart a little bit, because in the older houses, it's maintenance related items.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A lot of people don't know that they need to maintain their roof. They're like shingles, like shingle roofs.
Yeah. They
just get, architectural shingles on up there, and they're like, we're good for 30 years. And it's like, I know it's a 30-year shingle, but first of all, they're not going to last that long in our area, number one. Number two, like, they're not even going to last close to that long if you don't get somebody to look at it periodically and do some preventative maintenance. Repaint, reseal some flashings, make sure to fix any damaged shingles, cracked shingles, things like that, reseal nail heads, stuff like that. So I think that is a big one. Also, like, people need to change their air filters, for the love of God. Like, I mean, it's crazy.
I have a reminder on my phone. I'm like, I try to be like on top of that, because that's huge. Yeah.
So, man, I have been blessed with a large social media following, right?
Yeah,
that's crazy. It's like a wild ride. I'm still not used to it, but I do work with some brands that, want me to create content for them and everything. And one of them is an air filter company. And I try to be as authentic as possible whenever somebody asks me to do something for them. I try to have used the product.
Of course.
It's always something, I just don't want to just sell people stuff. Right.
Right.
So I really like it to be someone that I can get behind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there is anyone I can get behind, it's an air filter company. And thankfully they want me to make regular content for them because I'm like, I can tell people every day to change their air filter. They're still not going to do it. But I can literally say that and not feel bad about it daily. But I do it monthly.
Well, who's the company?
Filter By. Yeah, I should mention them. Yeah, Filter By. They're actually a USA-made air filter company. They're out of Florida. Their prices are pretty much better than any retail store. And you can just set them up like to auto ship and deliver to your house.
Oh, really?
So you don't need a reminder in your phone. It can just come to you whenever it's time to change. It's pretty cool stuff. Yeah,
that is cool.
Filterby.com. So yeah, that's a thing, man. People need to change their air filters. I try to practice what I preach.
Yeah.
So people don't go and reseal around their windows and wall penetrations with, a nice good sealant, or like showers and things like that too. Like I try to do that stuff. People should do that. So I see that a lot in the older homes. Like I say, it's maintenance related items.
That's the biggest thing you think is just maintenance.
In the older homes, but in the newer homes, man, it's just poor installation of a lot of materials, poor installation of roofing materials. We're going to go back there to roofing, but man, right now, in the current state of affairs where I'm at least, I can't speak for anywhere else, but in the Houston area, in new construction, we have got a massive HVAC problem.
Really?
I mean, they are not doing a good job. And I think that there are people that are installing these systems that don't know what they're doing. They don't care what they're doing, and they don't have the supervision.
It's like the blind leading the blind.
Stuff is backwards. Stuff is, causing major problems, major humidity problems.
Yeah.
And they're not. I'm taking it upon myself to try to learn as much as I can about this stuff. It's actually, let's go, Eric. You're back. Eric is he's actually going to cover some stuff tomorrow, I think, on some HVAC stuff and some stuff about air intake systems. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to that. I want to hear his take on that. But I see these things installed terribly wrong. I did this inspection the other day. Actually, this happened 2 times in a day, but it happens a lot. But the other day I was in this house, the second one of the day. They have 2 AC systems, one for one side of the house, one for the other. It's about 3,300 square feet. They got 2.5 ton units. Okay. So about 5 tons of AC over about 3,300 square feet, one thermostat on one side of the house, one on the other. They could have done this with one system, but they did it with 2, and that's fine. It's a 2-year-old home. Mm-hmm. They had a 2-year warranty with their builder, and so it was about to expire. And I'm up there looking around, and they told me that they had some AC issues, and they said the wife had told me, yeah, somebody had come out. We hired an HVAC company of our own to come out here, and they did some looking, and they said that they think that they are the wrong size. And I said, okay, well, I don't know. I'm not going to be able to help you determine that, because that is way beyond my pay grade. That's going to take a manual J calculation to be able to determine if it's the right size. Did they do that? And she goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure they did some type of calculation. I go, well, if they did and they said it was the wrong size, it might be the wrong size. But I'm going to run it for performance reasons, and I'm going to see what it's doing. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And man, one unit, fine. The other unit, we take a delta from the return and supply. It has to be between 15 and 20 degrees to be considered performing optimally. Mm-hmm. Okay. And this was at like 13. So it was well under. Yeah. And I looked under the evaporator coil, and it was raining. I mean, it was just dripping on the exterior of the bottom of the coil. And we're not talking about inside it. Yeah. We're talking about on the exterior housing. Just water droplets everywhere. You just soak your hand underneath.
Really?
And so after I wrapped up the inspection, I was talking to the husband now. He had come home. And I said, well, this AC, fine. This AC, not so fine. And I told him what was going on with it. He goes, well, that makes sense, because this is the side of the house we have issues with. Mm-hmm. And then so he proceeded to tell me that, they had hired an HVAC company and they said it might be the wrong size. I told him the same thing. Like, I don't really know, but they would have to do a calculation to know. And he goes, "Oh, they didn't do that." I said, "So they just looked at it and went, I think it's probably undersized." And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "See, that's how you get in trouble.
Right.
That's how you get like an oversized AC. If the builder's not going to pay for it, right?
Sure.
And the builder probably has done a manual J. So they probably know that it's the right size. But it's not working right because somebody installed something wrong. It's either duct related, fan speed related. Like, I don't know what the problem is, but it's wrong. And we know we need to get a professional in there to look at it. But it's like somebody in the HVAC trade just pulled out of their hat that they said it was possibly the wrong size. And it's like, it probably isn't the wrong size.
Sure.
And you have nothing to bear that. You have no facts to back that up.
Yeah.
And here, Mr. Inspector over here that doesn't know anything is going, "That's incorrect, man." It might be the wrong size, but that's not how you determine that. You don't guess.
Yeah.
And when you get it too high, you're going to have mold problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
The thing is like, even if it was undersized, still shouldn't be sweating.
That's
underneath
true.
it. So let's fix the problem and then let's see what's going on.
Yeah.
But, it's a real problem. I find that problem and many other very bad HVAC problems a lot.
Yeah.
Like between me and my other inspector, when his reports come through and I go through them, like I would venture to say 50% of the time, the deficiency box is marked on HVAC on new construction houses.
Really?
50% of the time.
That's
At least. Maybe more.
That's insane.
It is insane.
I really think, like, I've always had this opinion that, production builders are just ruining the trade pool because a lot of people work for these large production builders, and like I said earlier, it's like the blind leading the blind. You have people who don't know how it needs to be installed, installing it, and then no oversight.
Yeah, and the people that are in charge are actually, they don't know, so they're just trusting the people that actually don't know.
They're trusting the quote unquote expert, and they're no more of an expert than they are. Yeah. And I say it's ruining the trade pool because even the high end builders have to hire from this this pool of trades that's in your area, and you get these guys that they've never been told that, hey, this is wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they keep doing it that way and doing it over and over again. And it's like, well, nobody's told me any different. Nobody said it's wrong, so it must be right. And then you get hired on like a new build. Let's say it's more of a high end remodel or high end new construction, and you have a builder who actually has some damn sense, and they get out there and they tear this guy a new one because he has no freaking clue what he's doing. And you're like, how the hell did we even how did we get here? And now you're stuck with this this horrible system. That's what I'm saying. I think it's just totally trashing the trade pool.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. And it's funny because what you're saying reminds me of a saying that me and a friend of mine had, kind of a mentor of mine. And it was like talking about custom houses. And it was custom homes, custom problems.
Mm.
And here's what we mean by that, or at least this is what I mean by that. A lot of times people think if I get a custom house, like I'm not going to build a production house because these guys are terrible.
Mm.
I'm going to get a custom home. And that sounds great. But even though production builders, there's a lot of craftsmanship and poor execution of things, there is a vetting process that they have for their trades and a standard that they are meant to uphold. And so they may be doing it wrong, but they're at least doing it up to current standards. It might be wrong, but they are doing things the new way. Okay.
What standard is that?
Just whatever newer codes or whatever newer products. I'm speaking generally, so I don't know. But here's the thing.
Okay.
You get a custom home, and the tradesmen are different usually. Mm-hmm. And what you end up getting with the tradesmen in custom homes are builders or tradesmen that have been doing this for 40 years, and that's fine and good. Mm-hmm. But they've been doing it the same way for 40 years, and we do things differently now. Sure. And so, that can have
There are pros and cons.
It can be taken either way, right? Because like if you've been doing it for 40 years and it worked, like then what's the problem? But it really just depends because so much has changed about what we're doing and how we're building these homes over the last couple of decades that you actually can't do what you've been doing for years. Like there are some changes that need to be made because if you don't make those changes, when it comes to building science, it's kind of like you don't have to go all high performance.
Yeah.
But you kind of got to go in on the science, all in on the science, because you can't like half-ass anything. Because when you do, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to air seal a house, you can't halfway air seal a house because that's where you're going to end up having, mold issues or humidity issues. You know, why are we air sealing? Why are we getting so tight? Our envelopes getting so tight? Well, we've learned that we can control energy efficiency this way and that we can, prevent air and moisture intrusion and moisture that comes with air and vapor. We've learned ways to control all of these things, right? And in doing so, we can also lower energy costs. So if you build a tight envelope, but you don't lower like your HVAC, for example, like, we're seeing smaller and smaller HVAC units go in newer constructed homes. Mm-hmm. And people are surprised by that. They're like, God, man, I moved from a 1978 house, had a 5-ton unit, and it was
were just
2,500 square feet, right? And then I moved to this new construction house. It's a 3,000 square foot house, 500 square feet bigger, and we've got a 3-ton unit. And it's like, yeah, well, they're just doing things a lot different now. Yeah, the house is built to handle a lot more. If you actually go up, I know the house is bigger, but if you go up in your HVAC size, it's going to be oversized. It's not going to pull the humidity out of the house. You're going to have mold problems. Yeah. And so that's why, you got to do it all. You know what I mean? You have to air seal it all. You have to make sure that the HVAC system is sized appropriately for that, considering, whatever blower door tests and everything that they do, if they actually are doing it.
It's funny because, like you said, you can't half-ass it. But really, it's either all or nothing.
Yeah.
Because what's funny is that, well, maybe it's not funny, but like on older homes that have no air sealing, it's just siding slapped up on your 2x6 studs, and they just pump AC in there, and you know what? The house stays relatively comfortable.
Yep, and dry.
And dry, because you are pumping air through those walls, and it gets wet, and it doesn't matter because it dries out.
Yep.
But when and then you have a super tight house that the water is controlled so well that it's not a problem. But when you half-ass it, it's like it's no longer like it's leaky enough to let air and water in.
Yeah. But
it's not leaky enough to let it dry.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so then that's the problem.
And you get a major problem. Yeah. And so let water out, right?
Yeah.
It's not about keeping it out. It's about letting it out. I can't remember whose quote that is. But anyway, the old houses, they didn't have those problems. Mm-hmm. Lose your ass on energy bills.
That's true.
Lots of issues there.
And they weren't always they're not always the most comfortable.
Right. Homes. Yeah, totally. Like low insulation, no insulation.
Very drafty.
Yeah, totally. There's those issues. We figured out ways. I mean, like Steve Basic breaks it down really easy when he talks about, like the defined line between the outside elements and inside. Like, why are we building homes? Why do we have homes? Why do we do this? To get out of that stuff out there. We don't want that.
That's a good point.
We want a controlled environment inside that we don't want to be out there in the 90 degrees. We don't want to be out there in the negative 30 degrees. We want to be in 70 degree temperatures all the time. Mm-hmm. And we have to build structures that keep that out and that we can control what's going on inside. And so, but those older homes, they might have had less problems in terms of like moisture intrusion and causing mold.
It's so odd,
and humidity, but you can't get comfortable in
and
them.
they last 100 years.
Yeah, they do totally right. Well, you got to think about the lumber they were using for one. Like, lumber these days it's mostly water. It's basically. Like very wet. Like when we buy it. Yep. I mean, I get like whenever we are putting up drywall and everything. Hopefully, it is down to a manageable percentage.
I'll split that with you here.
Yeah, sure.
Top yourself off.
You want me to
Go for
knock it out?
Knock it out.
Okay, it's done.
Sweet.
All right, we killed a bottle.
Yeah.
In this podcast.
Well, it didn't start as a full
didn't
bottle.
start as a full
I don't want to mislead anybody.
But it did die.
It did die, yeah. Good.
Well, that's some good stuff too, by the way.
Dude, it's awesome. I got to give me another one. I think my go-to is like, on the cheaper side is probably the Johnny Walker Black Label. Oh my gosh, it's smooth, man. It's so good.
It's been a long time since I've had that, but I'm certain I have.
You got to try the Black Label.
I am, and I mean that's now we're going back to Scotch. It's funny how this conversation just pivoted, right? Did you notice that?
Oh yeah.
We take
100%.
one pour and then boom,
Hey,
we are in it.
That's what we're
That's
here to
okay. That's why we're here.
Absolutely.
So bourbon though, like I would say that like in terms of like affordable, go to, always consistently good, Woodford Reserve Standard or Buffalo Trace.
Yeah. Both of those, yeah.
I think those are probably bottles. I'm either going to have both or one of those sitting around all the time.
I got a Woodford Reserve at my house.
I've got one in my hotel room. I brought. You never know.
Yeah, you got it.
Do you ever go to Houston from here?
Every now and then, actually, yeah.
Like straight out 290. There's a place over near.
Well, I grew up in Brenham.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's my hometown. So yeah, right off 290. My parents, they have a small business in Houston. Okay. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with the area. So
do yourself a favor. You may have seen this, but on the way on 290, over where like you'd go to Round Top.
Okay.
There is a spot called Cooper's Family Whiskey.
I see signs for that.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So it's this dark building. Like if you're headed towards Houston, it's on the right. It's this dark building. They're open every day of the week, but they can't sell a bottle on Sundays. They can serve cocktails though. Oh. But this dark building, it's like dark gray.
Yeah.
And but I've gone there a couple times now. The inside of it is beautiful, like really cool. They got whiskey barrels everywhere and all these really cool pictures and stuff. And they're blenders. It's a husband and wife that decided to open up this place, and they seek out and blend whiskey. That's where a lot of this comes from. Like, I mean, who's going to open up a distillery?
Yeah.
This stuff has to age like 10 years, like, like
at least.
Yeah. And so like, you're not going to have like whiskey right away. Like
imagine explaining that to your wife. Like, hey, this is going to be a decade.
We're in this for the long haul. Okay, babe. So what people do is they, there are distilleries that sell their barrels and that and so you blend.
Oh, okay.
And to make your own. And that's what, like, if you familiar with Smoke Wagon?
I've never heard of Smoke Wagon.
Smoke Wagon's out of Las Vegas. It's not a Kentucky bourbon. Most of these are Kentucky's, right?
Okay.
But it's out of Las Vegas. But I mean, like, it's actually Kentucky bourbon. He's just blending it.
Oh, I see what you're
He's
saying.
buying barrels.
Yeah.
And blending it. And there's some variance in the flavors a little bit. To a certain degree, they can make it consistent. But anyway, that's what a lot of these, like, higher end, some of them, not like the old school Kentucky ones. Okay. Those are old recipes. Some of those might be selling their barrels. You know what I mean? And so the juice you're getting in some of these other blended bottles might be some that you're familiar with, but yeah, so they're blending, to make this. And that's what these are. They're not distilling it, but they're buying and blending, to make, these boutique bourbons. Anyway, it's a real cool spot. They got great cocktails. They got a great ambiance.
I need to stop there.
And you got to stop there. Yeah.
I'm always with my family though, and so it's
dude, just pop in and grab a bottle. They're about $45 to like $85. So it depends on what you want. But I mean, like, you can't go wrong with any of them. I went in there one day and bought 3 because I don't go by there. I've been wanting to stop for like 3 or 4 years. And so I was like, when I drove by one day, I was by myself. I was like, that's it. I walked in. I didn't have time. I went, I want that one, and that one. And threw them in a bag, paid for them.
Hell yeah.
I paid out the nose for them, right? Because I bought 3 of them. But they're kind of special bottles. I stopped again on the way in and picked up another one. Just one this time.
Dude, that's cool. I need to stop. Yeah. Next time I go to that area, I got to stop.
It's totally worth it. They'll let you taste.
Taste?
They'll
Okay.
they'll let you taste everything that they've got. They've got about 6 bottles. Like I say, I think the lowest is 45, and the highest one is either 85 or 100 or something 90, something like that. But then they got a few in between. So there's like a 45, a 50, 55 or whatever, 60, 65, something like that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, you can't go wrong with any of them. They're all good, but it is just a really cool, unique experience. So, and
I'm going to go there.
You got to go there.
I'm going to do it. I mean, even with my kids or not, I mean, I'm going to go in there and get some. I let my kids taste some of the scotch I had. And
man, they probably hated it.
Oh yeah, my son, he was like, "What is that?"
How old is he?
He's 4.
Okay.
It was just a taste.
Please continue.
But so he said, "What is that?" And I was like, "Well, it's scotch." And he said, "Can I have some?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "Yeah, here, take a taste. That'll put some hair on your peaches, buddy." And so he took a sip, and he didn't like it.
Yeah, he does not gonna. He's
like very this scotch that I have is very smoky, and it
could have been the smoothest scotch ever, and he's not going to like it.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll probably turn him off for the rest of his life. But yeah, he didn't like it. And then my daughter wanted to try some. She's 6, so makes it better.
Oh, okay, yeah,
that's acceptable.
What'd she think?
Same horrible reaction.
It's not going to ruin it for the rest of his life. I don't remember tasting it, but I do remember my dad doing the same thing with the beer with me when I was younger, like probably around the same age. I don't remember the taste, but I remember going, God, how do you drink that? Yeah. You know, like that's terrible. And now, like, it sounds great. Yeah. I mean, like, when someone says you want a beer, I'm like that.
Like a cold beer on a hot day, there's nothing better.
I know, it's great. It's seriously refreshing.
And that's funny. I think most men have that memory. Like my dad too. Yeah. Like he would always. What's funny is he, like I said, he has a business in Houston, but we lived in Brenham in the Navasota area, and so we would I had worked for the company, and we drive to Houston and back. And he would always stop and get a Miller High Life. Tall boy, and he would drive and sip on it. I'm like, Dad, isn't that illegal? He's like, that's only legal if you get caught.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right. Well, he's like, you want to try some? And so the Miller High Life, that was my first taste. And shockingly, I did like it. I was like, that's actually pretty good. I liked the Miller High Life. And it's kind of funny because I let my daughter try Shiner. She actually liked the Shiner. So.
I mean, yeah,
in moderation, it's like
I think
gotta drink.
Like you like it. You didn't hate it. Like is she gonna like? Not that you would let her or whatever, but
course.
Like I bet you she wouldn't get too much of it before she was like,
this is not very good.
Yeah.
And it's fun. Like this here is probably the only times I really get to actually enjoy a whiskey or a scotch is like the podcast or something like this. Special events. Like I usually don't. The bottles that I have at home just sit on a shelf. I usually, very rarely do I open it up and drink some. Every now and then I'll have a beer, but it's like I usually don't keep it in the house. But when I do, that I'll usually let them try it. But yeah, man, that was funny.
Well, I'll have to come out here more often and give you some more time to have a nice glass. I'll bring a bottle next time.
Dude, let's do it. I want to try one of the Cooper family ones.
I had one. It's in my hotel. I should have brought it. I don't know why I didn't. Well, because I would have had to carry it around in his backpack all day long.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of, I brought you a hat. I got a hat. Don't let me not give you a hat.
I want a hat, absolutely. And I have some koozies. That's about all I got.
That's cool.
I ran out of. I had T-shirts at one point, and I ran out. I kept giving them away. So you know how it goes. I
understand. Well, I bought new hats really just for this event.
I want one.
And so I stuffed a whole bunch of them in my backpack, and I've been trying to hand some out just to lighten my load all day long. The
awesome.
backpack's huge.
100%.
So anyway, but I definitely saved you one. I got one for you.
I love it. So I have some questions. I did not share these questions with you, so these are going to blindside you.
Okay.
But I got a few questions here to wrap up. Or do you have any hidden talents or skills that people don't know about?
I could go a lot of directions with this. Well, not everybody knows this, so I'm going to throw it out there. It seems like the most obvious thing. I am a musician. I
Well, you said you played in a blues band.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
What did you do?
Well, I play guitar. I have played guitar since I was 14, and I kind of was just in garage bands until I moved to Houston. When I moved to Houston, I joined a cover band, which then turned into an original band. We had some national representation, but we did some regional touring. We still have a couple of CDs that are available on iTunes, but we never really just couldn't make it, you know. Yeah. But we got into like our late 30s, and it was like, okay, well, what are we going to do here? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Not late 30s, I guess. It was, I guess it was, we got into our late 20s. I guess we were getting into our 30s, so something like that.
Okay.
And we had to think, like, what are we doing? We're like a hard rock, rap rock kind of band. And it was like, okay, we've had a couple of albums. We had a little bit of success, but nothing really crazy. Are we going to go in there and record another album and then go try to tour on this as we get into our 30s? Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Or is it just time to, like, say this isn't going to happen?
Yeah.
And I was actually already in a blues band at the time. I had started that kind of on the side and was doing that. And so we decided to not play in the rock band anymore. It gave me time to focus more on the blues band, which is just something that I just kind of wanted to do. It's just something I kind of always wanted to do. And so, we focused on that for a bit. I did a lot of singing in that band and playing guitar. And so I don't do it anymore. I stopped. My son was born in 2016. So in that year, I decided to hang that up as well because I was like the band leader, and it was just it was taxing. It was a lot. It was a lot to do. Sure. I was tired, and I was tired of doing it. I loved being on stage. I loved playing the music, but I was tired of running the operation and being responsible for everything. And I just wanted to just raise my son and be with my family, and that's it. And so I did. I stopped that, and then that was 2016, 2017. I started my home inspection business. There's a lot of changes going on around that time. I don't play anymore except for just sometimes I'll bring it over to a friend's house or, an acoustic guitar. I'll pick up the acoustic, play. My son likes it. I'm trying to teach him a couple of things now. That's cool. He's 8. But yeah, that would probably be the first thing I would say is some sort of hidden talent. I did think about going to culinary school because I really do like cooking.
Really?
I don't have much time for it these days, but I was really into that for a real long time when I had time for it.
That's cool.
And woodworking. I am a modern day Renaissance man. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
I wear a lot of hats, but there is not a room in my house that doesn't have at least one piece of handmade furniture.
No kidding.
So yeah. I mean, I am not the best, but I working to get better at it all the time.
It's so relaxing.
It really is. Wood is a very forgiving.
It is.
Medium to work with. And it is really cool as you work with it over time and develop your skills and tools and really start to, feel like you can really manipulate it to do all these things that you didn't know you could do. And, I still have the first thing that I built. It's a chest that's at the foot of my bed. It's terrible. I was looking at it the other day, like, how can I make this better? But it's like, it's still solid. It's still in one piece. It still does its job. It's literally the first thing I built in an apartment years ago, with nothing but a skill saw and a jigsaw and a hammer.
Really?
And so, yeah, I mean, that's it. And,
nice.
And these are, which were all borrowed from my dad, by the way. Although I didn't own any of them at the time. Of course.
Yeah, a lot of my first tools I stole from my dad.
I still have them because I didn't give them back.
Yeah, exactly.
So I still have them. Yeah. He's not with us anymore, but I do. His tools are still with me.
Yeah.
All that falling apart. But anyway, still have them. They still work, actually.
Good.
So yeah, I guess that's probably it.
That's a lot. A lot of hidden talents there.
Yeah. More than I expected. It started rolling out for a minute.
All right. So, in your opinion, what's the best 2 flavor combinations?
Oh, man. Like, we're not, like, no specifics.
No. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I thought of this the other day, and I don't know if you've tried this, but dark chocolate and Shiner. Really great.
No, I haven't done that. That seems, I would do that right now.
Dark chocolate and Shiner beer is like ice cold Shiner. Oh my gosh.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I wanted to initially just say chocolate and vanilla.
Okay.
Like that's where my brain went, which is like my wife is like totally chocolate, right? Like she's like,
Yes.
get your vanilla out of my chocolate. She does not want anything to do with anything but chocolate. There's no caramel, no nothing, right? And
Unadulterated.
just
Yes.
chocolate, dark and milk chocolate. Like that's fine, but like she wants all chocolate. You get ice cream, maybe she'll put some walnuts in it, but she just wants chocolate.
I'm the
That's
same way.
it.
I like it plain.
Really?
Yep.
Man, see, to me, like I like vanilla, I like caramel, I like peanut butter. Like the thing is like I think that those things when they work well together, then they enhance the other one, right?
Sure.
And so I like vanilla, but I like chocolate, and I like the way they work together.
They do
And
work
so,
well together.
yeah. And so I go with that. That's where my brain went. But then you start talking and I start thinking about like peanut butter and chocolate, right?
That's a big one.
And that's a big one too, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm also a big fan of peanut butter and banana.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I'm one of those weirdos who don't like I like peanut butter and I like chocolate. I don't like them together.
Yeah, that is weird.
I'm weird. I don't know why. I've just never.
Like a Reese's, man?
I hate Reese's.
That's insane. I don't even know if I can be here anymore.
I'm slow.
I mean, I'm going to
sorry.
drink this drink and then I'm going to bail. But
I don't know why. It's never caught on. That and okay, mint and chocolate, horrible. I don't know who came up with that stupid idea. I remember because I was scarred as a kid. I had one of those peppermint patties, and I thought it was just solid chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
And I bit into it, and it was like, why is it burn?
yeah.
I was like,
So
who
my
filled
wife,
this with
as much as my
toothpaste?
wife loves chocolate, she loves mint and chocolate. So
disgusting.
she does peppermint patties. Loves those. She
No.
loves mint chocolate chip ice cream. Yeah.
No, mint is a breath freshener. It is a toothpaste.
Yeah,
it is not a candy. I'm sorry.
I mean, I agree and disagree. I don't like a peppermint patty. I will get on board with that. I'm trying to think of something else that's like an odd combination. Because I don't want to just be plain old chocolate and vanilla.
Well, I'll let you think about it. So the another one is okay. Here's a good one. What's the first thing you would do if you won the lotto?
Pay off debt.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of people that say if I won the lottery, I would still work. I
You're
wouldn't.
not.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I people are like, well, what would you do? Like, I've got a long list of things that I need to get done that never gets done. I can think of a million things that I'd want to do. Now, would I still have a business? Yep, sure.
Yeah.
I would still have a business. I would still run my home inspection business. I mean, now that I am in business for myself and I get so much satisfaction out of helping people, I might do a few inspections like here and there scattered out, right? I might do that, right?
Yeah.
But I certainly would invest in things like my company and run my company, but I wouldn't work. But yeah, I'd pay off debt. And then I would just start, upgrade. I would upgrade things like vehicles, maybe house, and then traveling to some degree, just going to places with my family.
I agree. Okay, so final question, and I ask just about every guest that I have on this question, which is if you could change one thing about the construction industry, what would it be?
Okay. I think the first thing that comes to mind is some licensing and requirements for GCs and definitely trades.
I've heard that. That's been brought up before. Why do you say that?
Because I feel like if there were some better requirements and better education out there, that we would be dealing with less of the problems that I'm. And now, look, it's job security that we're finding problems. But the fact of the matter is, these are human beings building houses, right? And I wish I could just chalk it up to human beings making mistakes. Then that's the reason why I exist, right? Mm-hmm. That's always going to be the case. Like, there's always going to be the human element.
Sure.
But a lot of these problems that are happening, and especially the ones that are causing people major problems, and we're talking about health problems, safety problems, are happening because of a lack of education.
And you think having some kind of certification or training ahead of time is going to alleviate a percentage of those problems?
I think so. I think because there is a level that you need to be at
some kind of base level
of understanding
Yeah.
before you can actually do the work, right? Like, okay, they'll let you out of inspection school without, ever doing an inspection, without really even teaching you much about doing an inspection. But they do teach you how to thumb through a code book.
Yeah.
And so, like, how to look it up, and so, it's not like you don't have any knowledge. Matt Reisinger, actually, I don't think he knew this. I don't think he knew. We had this conversation. It's been a year ago now. I don't think he knew that inspectors had to have a license in Texas. It's not every state requires an inspector to have a license. And so he was like, when I think it was one of my Q&As that somebody asked me what it takes. And I went over everything that I told you earlier, about the hours that you had to put in, the certifications, the exams, the licensing, the background check, all that stuff. Matt goes, wow, we don't have to do anything.
As a GC.
Nothing.
Yeah.
No background check. No qualifications whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so, I think that obviously there are plenty people in the construction industry that do know what they're doing. But I do think like especially with production builders, some of these guys that just don't have any experience and are completely green and they are in charge of these builds. There's things that can obviously be caught if you knew what you were doing. They're getting away with it because there are no requirements. They didn't have to do anything.
But what do you think? Have you thought about this? Like, what do you think that looks like? Because, like, let's say there's a couple who they're not trained builders, but they want to remodel their house. They're not licensed. So now, the city that they live in is saying, hey, you have to hire a licensed builder in order to remodel your bathroom.
Okay. Well, I think that's something different. I think it is. I mean, like, because I feel like if you live in your house and you can do whatever you want to your house.
Hell yeah, I agree, buddy.
Yeah, I think
my domain.
Do whatever you want, right? There's certain cities that like you can't remodel anything without getting some type of permit, and I'm like, man, it's my house, and I'm talking about like you can't even like replace your water heater. There's a city out by where I live that like if you replace your water heater, you've got to get a permit.
Yes,
and it's like my water heater went out. And I bought, it's a 40-gallon water heater that is 20 years old. I bought a 40-gallon new water heater and I replaced, this is all hypothetical, but I replaced the water heater that didn't work with one that works. Why do I need to get a permit for that?
Exactly.
Why should I have to get permission?
Exactly.
That's what a permit is. A permission to change a necessary appliance in my house that was already there to begin with. I didn't put an addition on. And so I think that there's some things like that are some areas that are very strict about that. I think you should be able to do whatever you want with your own house. But I do not think you should be able to hire someone. Okay. All right. Let's go back to home inspection for a second.
Okay.
Let's say I was not licensed to be a home inspector and then I went and did home inspections. I get in a lot of trouble with the state. I get fined. There's a lot of trouble you can get into.
Yeah.
But if I'm not doing a home inspection, I mean, I'm not licensed, so I'm not a licensed home inspector, and somebody asked me to go look at a house that they're going to buy, and I'm not producing them with a report on the form that is mandated by the state, and I'm not claiming to be a home inspector or anything. Like,
this is just your opinion.
I could do that. Who's going to stop me?
Yeah,
I'm just a dude looking at a house.
Right.
That's totally legal. As long as you're not posing as a home inspector, and so I think that if I think the biggest thing is if you're getting paid. If you're actually getting paid, if you're getting hired,
yes, okay,
to do a job like in home inspection, and you're not licensed, that is not legal. If you're just doing someone a favor and you're not licensed, there's nothing against that.
Right.
And so I think the same thing goes for GC. So if you're doing something at your own house like that, you're not hiring somebody to do it, then whatever.
Yeah.
But if you are getting paid to do this job, then I think that there should be some requirements on that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes some sense. That kind of somewhat clarifies it, because that's kind of the the double-edged sword that I've been wrestling with is because on the one hand, I do agree there should be some level of knowledge that you should have. I think if you're going to be a general contractor or a sub for that matter, which subcontractors at least you do have to be licensed in the state of Texas, but a general contractor you don't. And so I do agree with that. Like there should be, but it's like, how do you really go about implementing that? Because of that scenario that I just mentioned, if I wanted to remodel my bathroom, not just a simple, hey, I'm switching a water heater or I'm doing a faucet, yeah. But I'm actually tearing in and reframing some things. Like, do I really need to hire a GC just to do that and pay the upcharge? You know what I mean? Like, so to me, it's like, I'm on the fence. Like, well, I don't know if I'm.
I can also see someone like, how long have you been in the construction industry?
Going on 10 years.
Okay, that's a long time.
A little more.
That's a long time.
Okay,
that's a long time, right? And so, like, it would. I can see your side of things. Like, if someone told you, hey, you actually have to go get licensed now. Mm-hmm. Be like, damn it. Like, I've been doing this for 10 years. Why?
That's exactly.
So I can see people that have been doing it for a long time that would be frustrating to them. Also, the requirements for getting it done, you'd probably be able to get it done really easy. You know what I mean? Like, because if you had that experience and you decided to be a home inspector, there's a whole lot of training that you could bypass. Yeah. If you could just say, I've been doing this long, then there's a whole lot of training you could bypass. Like, so if there was a state thing that was implemented, it would probably be like, if you have been doing this for 10 years or more, you just have to take this exam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's it. And then boom, you're licensed, right? Yeah. But I can see the frustration if you've been doing it for so long. I can see people being like, oh, man, why do I have to do this?
Yeah.
But and it's not that, those aren't the people I'm worried about.
Yeah.
The people that I'm worried about are the people that are letting things go by the wayside because they don't know any better. And the thing is, we are obviously experiencing an influx in building homes, right? We're still at an inventory shortage, which does seem baffling to me, but everything I have been told and everything I'm reading says that we are still at an inventory shortage. Yeah. And so with that being said, we are building at a very high rate. Mm-hmm. And so when you're building a large volume of homes, and this is from production it doesn't really translate well to custom builds, because custom builds are just doing what they're doing.
It's
one or two homes a year.
You're kind of insulated from a lot of stuff.
Yeah. But with production builds, and that's where my problems are. Mm-hmm. That's where I want these people to be licensed. Okay. Yeah. The volume is way high. And when you got a high volume of homes being built, you've got a lot of people employed, more than normal, a lot of trades, lots of GCs or project managers and stuff like that. Superintendents.
Yeah.
Lots of those. And the more people you have, the more problems you have. The more production you have, the more problems you have.
Yeah.
And so
spread thin.
Yeah. I mean, you got, the DR Horton, right? I mean, like, they've got a reputation. They got a pretty bad reputation in terms of quality. Mm-hmm. I've been in plenty of DR Horton homes that were fine. I mean, they're usually low end in terms of like the quality and of the things going in the house, but I mean, they've been fine. A lot of them, some of them not so much. But why do they have that reputation? Because they're the biggest home builder in the U.S. Because they're building more homes than anybody else, and they are also employing more people. Yeah, and that's trades, that's supers, that's everybody, salespeople, and so more people, more problems.
Yeah,
and so that's more unlicensed people too. And you say that like subs got to have licenses, but just the person in charge.
Okay, yes, you're right. The people installing it are not licensed. Mm-hmm. The license holder, the owner of the company, it's just one guy. Yeah. He's not out there doing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to your point, yes, that's true. They're just relying on their owner's license to be able to, do those installs.
So, like, what's the point?
Yeah.
If these guys, you don't even know what kind of training they've had.
Yeah.
Or if they've had any training or how long they've been doing it or whatever, and they're going in there and they're making these catastrophic mistakes.
Do you know who Icon is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen what they've been doing? Like these 3D printed?
Just seen Matt go and visit their sites.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Really?
concrete houses, yeah, I'm not sure. 3D printed.
I mean, it's a better building material. Wood is wood is crappy, man. Wood is like, it moves. It
concrete cracks.
No.
Concrete cracks.
But
it's porous. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it's more subject to capillary action. I mean, I guess wood is too, but I don't know. I mean, like
the thing about Icon, I don't think they've quite figured out the building science of it. Like, I don't think they've quite nailed like you said, the capillary action. They haven't quite figured out how to air proof and waterproof that assembly. Because like, how do you really do that in a 3D printed assembly, in a 3D wall?
Yeah.
That's a challenge I think they need to overcome. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the thing about concrete though is if it gets wet, it's no big deal.
Right.
It's
not gonna rot.
The longevity of it. I mean, you're talking about communities. You're building communities that can last potentially 100+ years versus a wood home that with cardboard sheeting. That's probably 25 years.
You say sheeting?
Sorry, sheathing. Did I miss?
Do you say sheeting?
I usually say sheathing. Sorry.
You do? There's
sheathing.
people that say sheeting.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the reason why I asked.
No, sorry. Cardboard sheathing.
Sheathing. You might have said that, but I heard sheeting, and I thought, oh, is he a sheeting guy?
No.
I don't care either.
Cardboard sheathing. But you know what I mean?
Sucks.
It does suck. It's cardboard, and and you got 2x4 walls with cardboard sheathing, and that home's going to last 15, 20 years, maybe. I mean, even if it's sealed upright.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll last. I just think that it will have to be remediated.
But what's the cost of that?
Yeah, it's expensive.
Who's going to be stuck with that?
They're not, the production builders are not building houses to last. That's for sure.
Right.
Steve Basic, long live our buildings.
Yeah.
That's what he likes to say all the time. Yeah, those production builds, no, they're not living long.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you got to have affordable homes.
I am on the fence with Icon. I have not visited Icon. Yeah. I don't know much about them. I just know what they are doing to some degree. It's concrete 3D printed houses. I have a bunch of questions.
I think a lot of people have a lot of questions.
I imagine they do.
All right. Well, Matt, dude, that's a good place to wrap it up. I really appreciate your time, man. I know you're up here from Houston.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. So.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hopefully I can catch you again next time you're in town.
Yeah. I plan to be back sometime. So, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you.